So here we have a video that you'll see on your screen, which is New Zealand for the WSET Level 3. So many of my videos follow key text and key syllabus of major wine qualifications from around the world. This one is designed specifically for those of you sitting the WSET Level 3 award in wines. And this is based around New Zealand. It's a series of short questions, which then I will provide the examiner's answers for. Very useful for you to get a feel for what may be asked in your examination. Now, this is a free taster of the full exclusive video. So if you want access to the full extended video, plus many other videos, you'll need to go across to my e-learning portal. That's the Wine with Jimmy e-learning portal. You'll see the information on your screen there, and also in the description you'll find a link which will take you straight there. Lots of extra goodies, lots of exclusive video content. How should you use this video? Well, I would urge you to pause every time that I pose a question, pause and try and answer it yourself. Then press play and see what I provide as an answer and see if it tallies up with what you are providing. It's a really useful way to get a feel for the examination questions and answers. Okay, let's start talking about New Zealand. Now, many of you'll know about New Zealand, famed, of course, for certain varieties such as Sauvignon Blanc. But we're going straight in here to do with grape growing. And it's going straight into a negative part of grape growing. It's asking you about the major grape growing hazard across most New Zealand regions. So we need to have some understanding that New Zealand is a collection of islands, two major islands in the Pacific Ocean, about 1,900 kilometers away from Australia. It makes it, therefore, a fairly cold area, that's true, but because it's an island dominated by the Pacific and the Tasman Seas, you'll find that you actually get really a lot of rainfall across the island. So the major grape growing hazard here is high levels of precipitation, high levels of rainfall. There are some regions that it's a little bit more moderate, like Marlborough, for example, but most of the others would be considered moderate to high. 1 mark available there. Now it's asking to name 3 issues with this hazard, so your high rainfall in New Zealand, and how it impacts the vine. We're not talking here about how it impacts the wine. This is how it impacts the vine, actually the vineyard. 6 marks here. So for naming 3 issues and then giving the impact on the vine. Let's look at the first one. So untimely rainfall, or rainfall throughout the year because it is a maritime climate, can cause issues with flowering and fruit set, which can cause lower yields. So this is somewhat of a problem, of course, around sort of late spring into early summer. 1 mark there talking about the rainfall being untimely, causing flowering and fruit set, and then causing lower yields. Next up is something which they do suffer with in New Zealand, and that is excessive rainfall, which can cause flooding, and that can reduce yields for that specific year, or really worse than that, cause long-term vineyard damage. Okay, so that's 2 marks for that one. And then also excessive rainfall here throughout the year can cause quite high vigor, specifically with the young soils that we have of New Zealand. It creates a lot of leaf canopy, which has to be managed. That, if it's not managed very well, can cause less grape growth and more shading. Other ones you could have here, because there are many issues, you could also talk about rainfall at the end of the season, which could cause problems with mildew and rot, for example, as well. And I suppose you could also argue that rainfall at harvest can cause issues with dilution in the grape. So 5 I've given there. So sustainable agriculture is an important initiative in New Zealand. Describe 4 conditions of sustainable viticulture. Now, this is something that we relate to as critical thinking. So, yes, this is a question which is directed uh, about New Zealand. And so, therefore, the majority of this will come from the New Zealand chapter. But there is something which we call bridging critical thinking, where other chapters are then brought into this question. And this one on sustainable agriculture, which New Zealand is very well known for, it goes into more detail about what sustainability is in viticulture in the grape growing chapter of your textbook. 8 marks here, so you're going to need to sort of state what one of the conditions are and then describe it a little bit 4 times over. First of all, man-made chemicals, so synthetics, are allowed, but there is restrictions in place about what types and the volume of that you can do. It certainly means that sustainability relies on a grape grower having understanding of ecosystems, so life cycles of pests, and monitoring weather forecasts to use predictability around disease and pests, and then how, of course, to manage that. It also focuses on a strategic homeopathic application of spraying. So, not just employing large volumes of copper and sulfate just to get rid of a problem. It's about applying it at the right times, but in small doses. So, this will decrease the volume of applications needed, therefore saving money, but also really not overtly impacting the environment and the ecosystem. Number 4 here is on what's called IPM, integrated pest management. So this is understanding, again, it kind of goes into point 2 here quite a bit, but really understanding about allowing types of bugs and animals to thrive in the environment because their main food source may be something that you need to be managed. And that's what we call integrated pest management. You can also talk about things like utilizing polyculture over monoculture. So what does that mean? Monoculture is where you have one specific production from one site. So therefore, with a vineyard, just grapes coming from a site. Polyculture is where you are utilizing, say, green manures, what are otherwise known as cover crops. So you will, in between the rows, maybe have legumes, or you might have different herbs and flowers. And this means that you have different crops being produced. You might also have forests and trees nearby that also will cultivate other crops. So this is what we call polyculture, better use and more diverse use of the land. Here on the left-hand side, you will see a label which says Terrace Vineyards, Central Otago Pinot Noir wine of New Zealand. So let's describe where this wine is from in New Zealand. So you can't just state, because that will be Central Otago. We need a bit of a description of that place. So this is Central Otago, located inland in the foothills of the southern New Zealand Alps. That is the location that is given in your textbook. Explain why this wine is likely to have high alcohol and high acidity. So 2 marks available for each of these parts. So 2 marks for high alcohol, 2 marks for high acidity. The high alcohol is to understand that despite this being a cool climate, there is high intensity of sunlight during the growing season due to the latitude, but also to the thinner ozone layer in place here in New Zealand. So this means that you get very high levels of intense sunlight, which means ripeness, which means higher amounts of alcohol. Now, if you want to look at the next part of the question and get the answer for that and many more on the extended version, you'll need to sign up to my portal. That's over at Wine with Jimmy, so www.elearningwine.winewithjimmy.com. grape.com. You'll see the address for it there. There's also a link in the video below, in the description below. Lots of great extra goodies there, so including flashcards, maps, short written questions, mock examinations, lots of videos like this as well, where I teach you about the certain topics. So really useful if you are looking to, of course, conquer your level 3.